Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to talk about my battle with weight. It's an interesting thing because, when I was a kid, I was always so skinny, and growing up, I see photographs. I saw a photograph of me that I had not seen recently, and I was all hands and feet, and I was skinny as a rail in my 20s. I weighed 130 pounds, and I was 5'9", maybe 5'10" at that point. And no matter what I did, I couldn't gain weight. And it remained that way for a while. I was impervious to weight. And then around the age of about 28, I gained about 30 pounds in a month. it was amazing. All of a sudden, I plumped out a little bit. And I was like, whoa, how did this happen? And the interesting thing was this. From that point on, after the age of 28, I had a hard time trying to control weight. And I would gradually gain weight. I'd try to lose it. I'd exercise some. I went through periods of exercise and built myself up a little bit, and then I stopped exercising. We have a habit of doing things like that. We try for a while, and then we kind of screw it up. And I exercised, I did a lot of stuff, and I guess I grew tired of it. And in the late 1980s into the beginnings of the 1990s, I worked for Disney, and I was a performer for them, and I was always performing, and it was hot, and my weight stayed pretty good. And then when I moved back up north from Florida, I found myself porking out again. Over the years, it was back and forth, and probably about 1992, I started a program where I ran about 5 miles a day, jogging. I had a whole setup how I would do things. I was living in Clinton, New Jersey, and it was kind of fun. It was a small little town, and I always had my same route. I went by the barber shop, and I went by this shop, and it was a different world. I don't know if it's the same. It's probably changed a bit, but I used to go by and I'd wave at the barber shop, and they'd all wave, and because they saw me every day practically. And I did that for a number of years. And then my knees started to go, and my ankles started to go. And then I approached my 40s, and everything started to change a little bit, and I slowed down, and I gained weight. I was always fond of bread, I was always fond of pastas, and I was fond of rice, and all kinds of things that were fun and nice to eat, but also that would make you gain weight. And it wasn't until I was working for a major book company, which I was setting up programs for authors and writers and speakers. And I would often meet with them in advance, and we would have a talk or whatever, or have dinner together and chit-chat. And one of these individuals was a fellow by the name of Dr. Robert Atkins. And we met predictably at a steakhouse and had dinner and chatted, and he was very, very interesting and fascinating, and he talked about his own experience. He was a cardiologist and had a battle with weight. And he did not invent the idea of his weight loss program. It's been existent for quite a while. But he took it and added a little bells and whistles here and there, and he was scrutinized and yelled at by the entire medical industry for his ideas. Well, we had a great conversation. He wrote me a wonderful note about having such a wonderful time, and it was really very sweet of him. And I took a lot of what he said to heart, and I started working on his diet. And I lost a number of pounds. And like with anything, it's a difficult diet to do. You have to really be disciplined. And I enjoyed going out and meeting my friends and have a couple of beers with them. And, I like to go out and meet people and have dinner, and we ate all the stuff we shouldn't, and I just kept gaining weight. And I tried to go back to the Atkins, and I failed miserably. I tried many different things. I went back to exercising. Weight was still a major issue. In 2010, not only did I have trouble with my knees and my ankles, but I started getting a terrible case of sciatica. Terribly painful, remarkably painful. And in fact, I had an attack of sciatica. I was at a dear friend's house, and I happened to be reaching for something, and all of a sudden I started screaming in pain, and it was involuntary. I couldn't even stop. And the pain was so intense. I kind of worked my way into the bathroom, and then I couldn't even stand anymore, and I ripped the towel hanger out of the wall because I just crashed onto the floor. And they had to call an ambulance because I couldn't be moved and I was screaming. I'd never experienced pain like that. And so they took me to the hospital, and they injected me with all kinds of painkillers. And every time they gave me a shot, it didn't seem to matter much. The pain was so strong. And it turns out I was allergic to some of the painkillers. And I was lying at my friend's house because I couldn't get anywhere. They took me home. And all of a sudden, my entire lungs filled with fluid, and fluid was just pouring out of me, and I was gurgling. And I got a call from them, and I called them, and they said, "Oh my God." And so turns out my friend's, the director of his department, his wife was an expert on infections and allergic reactions. And so he called, and she said, "Get him over here immediately." And so 4 people came and picked me up and carried me over there. I mean, with fluid. I filled an entire bag with just fluid pouring out of me. Just clear fluid. And so I got to the place, and I was just out of it. I was, as she said, if you had waited a little longer, you wouldn't have made it here. And she hit me with the EpiPen, and then started to pump out my lungs. She had all this equipment. And she said several things. "You're fat." She said, "You have to lose weight." And I had porked out quite a bit. I had reached a point where I had gone up to about 225 pounds. Just much too heavy for my frame. And so I thanked her profusely. I mean, what do you say to someone who just saved your life? And, of course, I went to the doctors afterwards, and he said, "Well, you can't take the good stuff for pain anymore." And I started to look at ways of trying to lose weight. So I started walking and started trying to exercise a little bit. But I really had reoccurring bouts of the sciatica for a while. I highly don't recommend it. If you can avoid getting sciatica, do it. It's no fun. And finally, my aha moment, the time I finally got control of myself. And believe me, it's hard. A lot of times when you're a little heavy, and then you get heavier, you don't realize you're getting heavier. And you have these natural filters in your eyes that say, "Oh, you're not that heavy." Well, you are. And so I had all kinds of tests done, and I was getting close. They said, if you keep going like this, you're going to start working your way toward diabetes and stuff like that. So I went on a strict diet, and the words of Robert Atkins were ringing in my ears all those years later. He had since passed away from falling on the ice and killing himself by accident. But I went from 225 to 175. I lost 50 pounds. I fell off the wagon here and there. I also had a severe eye problem. I had retinal detachments, and I had 4 operations. And believe me, that was pretty problematic too. It took the course of a year. And I felt sorry for myself and kind of gave myself whatever I wanted. And of course, I predictably gained weight. And so after that, I went back to work at trying to lose the weight. And I've tried to keep my weight right around 185. I have failed now and then and gone up, like going out and meeting people and doing things and going on a trip with friends. I found myself reaching up to 200, and then I put myself on the strict diet. It was really hard, I must say, and I'm sure every person who has that issue of the battle of the bulge can attest to this. I envy all these people who can eat anything and they stay skinny. I can gain weight watching people eat things that I can't eat. But I have been pretty careful. I have been pretty under control. And I want to tell you what I have done, just to share this with you. Always go to your doctor and find out if you can do this kind of stuff. Just don't go ahead and do it, because you have to find out your general health. I banned myself from alcohol. I also would not allow myself to eat pasta. I would not allow myself to eat rice. I would not allow myself to eat bread, although I could eat butter. But the other thing is this: I also would not allow myself to have any alcoholic beverages for as long as I said so. You have to be a strict disciplinarian upon yourself. Every now and then, I will allow myself to go out and have drinks with people. But then, I cannot have it until I say so. You have to be strict. And the thing is, just one other thing to mention, I have been able to keep myself right around 185. Right now I'm at 190 and I have to lose about 5 pounds, so I'm very strict again, and I'm only eating certain foods. For those of you who are suffering from gaining weight and having issues with this, and when you get older, I'm in my 60s now, and so I have to look at myself a little differently, because our bodies don't work quite the same as they once did, and it's easier to gain weight because you're not quite as active. I eat meats and chicken and fish and a lot of green vegetables and salads and tuna and all things like that. And I allow myself fats. And it's interesting how my blood pressure has gone down. My sugar has gone down drastically. And then every now and then I allow myself to cheat, because you've got to reward yourself a little bit. But you also have to be the greatest disciplinarian upon yourself. I just wanted to share this stuff with you because that was my journey. And I've been doing these videos for 10 years, and you can actually, if you go back to the old ones, you can see that I was porking out there for a while. And I've worked at trying to keep myself in order now, and I hope I will for the rest of my life. So I wanted to offer this as a bit of a journey for myself. Maybe if I can inspire a few people to try. It's not easy, and something, you'll fail. Fail a couple of times, and then you pick yourself up and you try again. It's the only way to do it. But I will tell you, now, at this point in my life, I know I have trouble with my ankles and my knees, and I have occasional sciatica, which, by the way, I haven't had, quietly saying so, sciatica in a number of years. And hopefully I won't again. But you have to control yourself. And you know, it takes a long time to eventually do so. So I wish you luck, and try this if you get a chance. And if I can pass the word from Dr. Atkins, is the way he put it to me, he said, you will never regret the fact, if you can lose the weight, how much better you will feel. Thank you.